off by having you introduce yourself to those who don't know you. Tell me a bit about your background, like what your journey has been, where
Yeah,
you
sure.
started, and where you
So,
are
hello
now.
everyone. My name is Sarah Ake. I am of Ghanaian and Sierra Leonean descent. So, my dad is from Ghana, my mom is from Sierra Leone, but they met in Denmark, interestingly enough. So, I was born in Denmark. I lived there for 8 years before we decided to move to the US. And English actually was not my first language. So, when I came here, I had to be put in like the English ESOL program to get acclimated. Yep,
ESL.
ESOL. And the one thing that was consistent for me from Denmark to here was math. Because no matter what country you're in, no matter what language you speak, 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. 5 times 5 will always be 25. And so really early
Mm-hmm.
on, I realized that I really liked math from elementary school through middle school. And so once I got to high school, I decided to test into like a STEM high school program. And to my surprise, I got in. And that
Mm-hmm.
program really exposed us to the various aspects of STEM. And that's when I learned about engineering. Because prior to this, I thought an engineer, when I pictured an engineer, I pictured like a train conductor, like someone who's like operating a train. I did not know what an
Wow. Okay,
engineer
that's the
was.
first.
No one in my family is an engineer. I didn't have any close friends or aunties or uncles who were engineers. So it was very foreign to me. But as I started realizing my skills in math and my attraction to the sciences, and I started learning about bioengineering specifically, I realized that engineering is where I
Mm-hmm.
saw myself thriving and where I wanted to explore and to grow in. So I went on to college and I pursued a Bachelor of Science in bioengineering. And I didn't do a specific concentration because I wanted to get exposure to all the aspects of bioengineering. It's such a broad field. There's plastics, there is internal medicine,
Mm-hmm.
there's external medicine. So I just said, I want to try everything. And I started gravitating towards medical devices. So now I do work for a medical device company, specifically a genome sequencing company. And my company makes gene sequencers. And that's just a very fancy way of saying a machine
Okay.
that's able to read DNA sequences for various purposes, like cancer research or different R&D projects. And my specific role is a field service engineer. And my job, in short, is just to make sure that our machines are working. So I get called in when things aren't working. And I'm either troubleshooting, replacing parts,
Okay.
doing installations, doing maintenance, reverse engineering, all those kinds of things. And so that's where I am career-wise. And I also started my own business on the side, which is AWise Network, to help other women like myself who are interested in pursuing STEM careers. So that's a little bit about myself.
I love the fact that you didn't start in one place. Honestly, you moved around. And I think a lot of people don't realize, but that's
Yeah.
really what makes us who we are, our environments, where we come from, the society you grew up in. And so I think it makes you a very dynamic woman that can speak to multiple audiences. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's engineering week, it's E week,
Happy
so happy
Engineers
E week to
Week.
all my engineers. um, can you tell me what your specific engineering type
Yes.
is? Can you
So
define
for
that?
bioengineering, it's really a cross of biology and medicine. Well, I would say I'm more biomedical engineering. So it's a cross of biology and medicine and then engineering principles. So what that looks like is we are trying to
Okay.
solve medical and biological problems like genetic diseases or organ failure. We're trying to solve those problems or mitigate those problems using engineering principles. So just to give a practical example, there are many people who are waiting for kidney replacements, and some people die before they even get to move up on the list. So what if we can use what we know about
Mm-hmm.
technology as far as like materials and how they work and how they can function? How can we use that with our knowledge of biology to maybe engineer an artificial kidney? That's just one example. So biomedical engineering is really the cross of medicine, biology, and engineering technology to solve those complex medical issues that are affecting many of us on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. And I know that's really cool, by the way. I know for my friend, I have really close friends who are doctors, and they're always telling me that
Yeah.
with medicine, they're constantly learning. Do you find yourself having to constantly like learn what's out there and what can help your program and
Yes, most
your
definitely.
field,
Yeah,
basically.
because the essence of our
Okay.
field is solving
Is
problems. And
one of
so
those.
if we aren't abreast with what's going on, we won't know where there are gaps to fill. Like I recently had a son. I'm married. I have a son, by the way. I didn't mention that. Thank you. Thank you. And
Congratulations.
we had to go to give him an EKG when he was just a couple weeks old. And the device that they were using to do the EKG was just very ineffective. And that for me was a learning moment because I was thinking to myself, how can this be improved so that it can better suit tiny little babies and to
Mm,
get an accurate reading? So things like that, I find myself reading articles, talking to doctors because they are the ones whose problems we want to solve. So if you're not having those conversations, then you're going to be kind of stagnant as an engineer.
wow. I love that. Funny enough, in my job, I'm starting to
Ooh,
go into like the cell and gene therapy. So this is pretty
yes.
familiar to me as well. Yeah,
Really big, right?
I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. And I grew up, yeah, I grew up hating biology. So if my friends that I went to high school with are in this live, like they know that Lillian and biology is a no-go. So it's interesting how life works. um, but I like to start all my interviews with this one question. What is one thing that the pandemic taught you
Ooh,
about yourself?
this is a really good question. During the pandemic, for my job at least, the amount of work that I was doing was cut back. So there were a lot of days that I would have to spend at home, and sometimes I wouldn't have something that I was directly assigned to do. But I found that I still had the spark to be innovative and to be creative and to work at something. And what that taught me is that I'm not just an engineer because I carry the title or because I went to school to get the degree. I'm an engineer because I think like an engineer. My brain is captivated as an engineer's brain would, because during the pandemic, when I would have that downtime, I started thinking about ways to be innovative. That's when I started my business. That's when I started working on
Mm,
side projects. And it really just showed me that for me, it's more than just a title to carry. Because, you know, some people are just like, I'm an engineer, look at me, woo, woo, woo. And it's just about the accolades. But I realized that I actually care about impacting this world through the skills and the education that I've gotten. So that's one thing that the pandemic taught me.
mhm. Is that something that you always were you always this passionate, or do you think it stemmed from you sitting still and just being isolated and thinking to
I
yourself
think
and
I think
having
it
all these
fluctuated
ideas?
because in school, when you're
Okay.
taking the diffie Qs and all these crazy classes, it can almost feel like, why am I doing this again? Like who asked me to come and put myself in this? And even at work, sometimes if you find
Mm-hmm.
yourself kind of getting into the mundane routine, you can kind of question, was this the right path for me? Does this still excite me? And so having that time where I could sit back and not be overwhelmed by a busy schedule or a long to-do list, it allowed me to really sit and think about the fact that I actually enjoy this and what I enjoy about this. And it gave me clarity about
Yeah.
how I see my career growing moving forward, because I was able to remove, you know, just the
Mm-hmm.
mundane everyday stressors and really think about why I'm on this path and why this path matters to me. And I think from then, I have seen my passion be more consistent because now I'm able to remember why I'm doing it and the vision that I have for the long term.
Mm-hmm. And I can relate to that as well. And I think for me, I'm right in the middle of that feeling. Like sometimes it's like, okay, what exactly do I want to do? And like,
Yeah.
what is all this for, you know? And for me, I think it's a blessing that I was able to transition into the biopharmaceutical industry, because now I feel like most of what I do, I'm passionate about it. Like I know that these products that I'm working on are at the end of the trip, like it's going to help someone's life, it's going to help save someone's life, it's going to help improve someone's lifestyle. So I think having a purpose attached to what you're doing really matters. Now I want to delve quickly into your newly found space in life,
Yeah.
which is you just became a mom.
Thank you
How,
so
like,
much.
congratulations, first of all. How
Yeah,
does that
whew, there are a
feel?
lot of emotions, but he's even right here. He's just, as I'm smiling, smiling back at me.
Oh.
Oh man, it has come with a lot of emotions. It has made me question whether engineering was the right choice, whether it's practical for raising a family, whether it's practical for being a wife and a mother. It has come with a lot of feelings, and I really had to connect with other women who are also mothers and engineers, so that I didn't feel discouraged in a sense, because motherhood changes everything about you. All of a sudden now all you care about is this human being you brought into this world that you're raising. And if I'm being honest, I started to have doubts about whether I chose the right career path. Despite my passions, despite how much I love it, I was now thinking, is this suitable for my child and how I want to be present in his life? So I had a lot of emotions, a lot of emotion.
Mhm. So do you think, like, why do you think it's making you question, or it made you question being in engineering? Is it because of what you do? Is it because of what the space looks like? Is it like, what exactly about engineering did it make you? Is it like the work
Yeah,
hours?
I
Like,
think
what is
it
it?
it probably has more to do with the specific role that I'm in. But I think even in general for engineers, we tend to
Okay.
have a lot of projects that we're handling at the same time, which requires a lot out of us. Some of us may even take work home, maybe not physically, but mentally in our minds. And I started to realize that now that I have a
Mm-hmm.
child, everything is different. When I'm at home, I have to be present. I have to care for this child. I have to be thinking about this child. I can't be thinking about work and this child and expect me to be fully present at both. And then also, I had to think about,
Yeah.
do I want to have a job where, because for my job being in the field, I was traveling a lot, I was in hotels a lot, I'm on the road a lot, and I was thinking, is this conducive for the kind of mother that I want to be? And so it had me
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, maybe it's time to grow in my role or to grow to a different position, because it suited me when I was single, it suited me when I was married with no kids. But now that I have a child, it may be time to start thinking differently, or to catapult into a promotion in a different role that will be maybe better suited to what life looks like now.
Yeah. And I think that's so interesting because every phase of your life um needs
Yeah.
something else. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, when you just graduate from college, you're open to being able to travel. You
Relocate,
actually
new
want
city.
to travel for work, right? And then you get married, and it's like, okay, there's a bit of, I need to consult with someone else, or I need to, this has to
Yeah.
work for this other person that I'm living with. And then now that you have a child, it's like, okay, I have a whole human being to take care of. And so I can't really allow myself to, I can't really do the things that I wanted to do initially. And
Yeah.
that's a personal fear
Yeah.
of mine. Honestly, it really is because, especially for women like us who are very ambitious, I think it's very easy to feel like, maybe, am I going to lose
Yeah.
that part of myself? Am I going to have to sacrifice one thing? But I like how you said maybe it just requires me
Yeah.
to transition into something else. And so I would say, like, for women at least who are in that space, or who are on their way to becoming moms and are in the STEM field, don't
Don't
be
be scared.
scared to make the transition. Don't be scared to
Yeah.
make the change that you need to make. And I mean, I'm not a mom, so
You're speaking to
I'm
your
talking
future
like I'm
self.
one. Right? I'm speaking to my future self. And so I really love that. And what do you think being a mom
Yes.
has taught you
I
about
think it,
yourself?
it has taught me to have a healthier perspective on what's going on in life, because life is always going to come with different seasons.
Mm,
And so motherhood is just a different season. And instead of me seeing it as, I can't do this anymore, or I have to let this go, or I have to sacrifice, now I see it as, God has taken me to a greater season in my life, and now He's going to open different doors, or He's going to position me differently where I'm still
yeah.
successful, I'm still passionate, I'm still doing work that I love, but I'm letting go of one thing, knowing that something else is going to come that I can love just as much. And it can be just as fulfilling, or it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm just as passionate about. So having the right perspective that I'm not losing to lose. I'm letting go because I believe that now in this season, there's a different kind of better, and it's still good.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say that you have a way with
It's because
words?
I
Like,
had to
I'm just
learn
listening to you.
English,
I'm like,
y'all. I had to learn.
yeah, like,
That's why.
No, I love it. I love it. It's really good. And I love that you just threw in the God factor because that's something that I think really drew me to you. I think I watched you on Instagram Live and somehow I stumbled on it and I was initially like drawn to what you were saying. So tell me about your faith journey. Tell me about like who you are with
Yes,
regards to
faith
being a Christian.
has become one of the most important things in my life. Interestingly enough, I wasn't always a person of faith because growing up in my house, I mean, we kind of like in theory acknowledged that there was a God, but I never subscribed to any specific way of worshiping him or coming to him when it came to religion. But it was when I was in high school that everything changed for me, and I had an encounter that was undeniable, and I decided to follow Christ, to follow Jesus. And throughout my undergrad journey, I faced a lot of hard times. If you look on my Instagram, I talked about, experiencing a house fire. I talked about being undocumented and not having financial aid and having to pay for college out of pocket. So there were a lot of tough things that I was facing that in the natural, I think I probably should have just given up on this whole pursuing education thing. But because I had assurance from God, because he was encouraging me, he would send people to encourage me, he would favor me in ways that truly do not make sense. I think that was 100% one of the major reasons why I've been able to get to where I am now and why I will get to where I'm going to be in the future. So faith has been everything on this
Amen.
journey.
Yeah. How does that play into
I think it
being
helps
an
in
engineer?
answering the question of purpose, because sometimes it can feel like, was I really created just to go to school, go to more school, go to more school, get a job, and then pay bills and then die? Is that really all this life is about? It can seem so meaningless, but through my belief in Christ, I've started to see that there is more purpose in this than just getting a paycheck and then just being able to buy a house and being able to get a car. I have been positioned in these places to impact people that I otherwise would not be able to impact. If I'm not an engineer, I would not be able to have access to other engineers because how would I get in the room? It's the same thing for doctors. How would a doctor be able to impact those patients that are in the hospital? If you're not a doctor, you don't have access. So I see that in me, in the gifts and the skills that I have, God is using that in fulfilling the purpose of reaching other people and shining his light so that they too can walk in their purpose as well. Because without education and without our various careers, we wouldn't be able to get into certain spaces. And so being able to get into that space now, the purpose is unfolded in that now I'm reaching other people while still doing something that I care about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Yes,
love what Kev just said. He said, you are perfectly prepared
I love that.
for your
Perfectly
purpose.
prepared.
I love that. That's so true. I know, hmm I know for me, and just a bit about my journey, I also had my personal struggles in college, and I think that is what has shaped
He
me.
does.
He wants to be in the conversation. I think that's what has really shaped me and pushed me into my purpose. I really didn't think that um, any kind of purpose would be birthed out of failure, out of struggle, out of
Yeah.
like so many negative things, you know. And when I realized that out of these down seasons or out of these struggles, God can really um, create something beautiful in your life, that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Now, anytime I find myself in going through anything, I have to
Yeah.
remind myself that there's a reason for this, and my purpose is greater than whatever struggle or whatever
Yeah.
thing I may be going through at that point. Now, talk to me a bit about what you believe your purpose is as related to STEM, and you can share a bit about like AYS as
Yes.
well and where that came
Because
from.
I had to overcome so many obstacles and I didn't really have many other women at the time to talk to who were also going through the same thing or had gone through the same thing, simply because I didn't really know where to look or where to ask. And I realized that I'm not going through these
Mm-hmm.
things just for myself, but there will be other women just like me who will be in the same predicament or worse, who are looking for someone to say, you can still make it, or here's how you can still overcome. You failed that class. All right, here's the other plan. Here's how we can make it work. And as I was
Yeah.
thinking about that, it just all started coming together full circle that I now want to be that mentor, that older sister that I so desired to have in the STEM field. And that's where AYS came from. AY stands for
Yeah.
Advancing Women in Science and Engineering. And so the goal is to educate, is to empower, and to develop women. And I'm really big on the empowerment part because I think everything can change about a person when they realize that they are capable. I think the one thing, engineering has such a high dropout rate. Like the freshman class would be so big by graduation,
Mm-hmm.
there's like 20% of us left. And I think for a lot of
32.
people who drop out is because they failed that one class. We were so used to getting straight A's in high school, and then we fail one class and our world shatters. But if there's someone to empower you to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, this one failure or this one thing that you failed does not make you a failure. You can still make it. If I begin to tell y'all how many classes I had to repeat,
Yeah.
I won't even go there. But it's because I had to be empowered to know that you can still keep going. The road does not end here. This is just one obstacle. Fall down 9 times, back up 10 times. And so I really want to empower the next generation because when I'm long gone, I want to know that there are other women who are still making innovations in the world of engineering. And so that's where I see my purpose unfolding in this.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that's what a lot of women are, well, our generation now, a lot of us are realizing this gap in, not having a mentor when we were in college, high school, early career, whatever. Like we are trying to create the change
Yes.
that the space that we didn't have. And I think that's really the foundation of every female organization that you find out there, either it's a mentorship organization or empowerment or whatever it is. I think it speaks a lot about you to want to, you know, um go beyond your journey because you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You don't need to do this, You can move on, make all your money and then live your life and you're good. um but I really commend that. I think a lot of women, well, I've had conversations with a lot of people who some have shared that, now there's so many women in STEM organizations out there and where it's oversaturated. What do you
You
say to
know,
something like that?
it's really all about perspective. We will always feel like things are
Mm-hmm.
oversaturated. But if Lyft thought that Uber had already saturated the market, then it wouldn't be a thing. We have Uber Eats, Grubhub, and DoorDash, and they're also in business making money. And so
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to mindset. For me, and I would encourage this to anybody else, you really have to hone in on who you're looking to serve. There are 7 billion people on this planet. So there will always be someone who needs to hear you. Always. That's why we see so many different variations of the same thing. So I think thinking that things are oversaturated is really just a belief that will limit us and cause us to shrink back and feel like, oh, I'm just going to be
Mm-hmm.
another number on the table. I'm just going to be, but what if you aren't? What if you are the next major breakthrough? What if you are the person that somebody has been looking for so desperately? Not everyone has your story. I don't know anyone else that is half Ghanaian, half Sierra Leonean, born in Denmark, and a biomedical engineer. I don't know anybody else. I had that story as far as I know. And so everybody's unique story needs to be
Yeah.
heard, needs to be told. So that's what I would say to anyone who feels like it's oversaturated. Your story is unique and it is valuable because there's no one else like you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Effie said, yeah, absolutely have a niche. And I
Yeah.
think that's that's key. I love how you put it. Like there is literally no one with the same story that you have. Yeah, people may have bits and pieces of it, but in the form that
Yeah.
exists in you, no one else has that. And so that's what you need to hone into and use as your platform to really empower, inspire, encourage, whatever your purpose is. Now, what do you say, or what do you think about imposter syndrome? Did you ever experience that? Is it something that you experienced and it's done? Is it something that's ongoing? Is it something that you're like, yeah,
Oh
I've
no,
never
I
dealt with
have.
that?
I've dealt with that in various forms. In college, I think I dealt with it in just questioning or doubting whether I was capable enough or smart enough to make it to the end like everybody else, because I didn't have a family member who was an engineer. I didn't have a family friend at this company who can get my foot in the door. And so I started questioning whether or not I was even, you know, if I was even seen as valuable enough to be hired by a company. And then I graduated, I got hired, and then now working, I saw I'm the youngest one, I'm a woman, I'm a minority. What do they think of me? I started feeling like I had to overcompensate to show that I am a good worker, I am a qualified engineer. And that is really imposter syndrome, because you're now overcompensating because of an insecurity that you feel. And even now, as I'm desiring to grow in my career and to, you know, seek promotions and things like that, I can feel like, do I have enough years under my belt? Do my skills really speak for me? And just questioning the value that I add. So I feel like it's a thing that always shows up or tries to show up and rear its ugly head in different forms. And one way that I'm helping myself to overcome it is to keep tabs of everything that is great about me. My accomplishments, my skills, my hard skills, my soft skills, things that I do really well, things that are very unique about the way that I work. And when I'm able to reference those things, it pulls me right back. Like, no, Sarah, hold on. You are an incredible woman. You are an incredible engineer. So if there's anyone who's feeling imposter syndrome, I would say have a running list or have a folder on your computer where you just dump all the great things about yourself that can remind you of why you are qualified and you are capable.
It's very easy for one down season or one negative experience to really completely throw you off course, because I know last year at a point I was venting to one of my friends that I don't think I've done anything. I feel like I wanted to start in this STEM field and I haven't accomplished anything. Like, I was really going in like very down about it. And then she asked me, she was like, write down every single thing that you have done this year from January. And I was like, okay. And I started writing. And I was like, wait, I don't just have one. I don't just have two. I don't just have three. Like, I had a lot of things on that list. And it's crazy how we can easily forget our achievements, you know, when something just isn't working well or something just isn't going well according to our plan. You know, I recently listened to this sermon by one of my favorite pastors, Pastor Stephanie Ike, from 1LA, and she was sharing about being able to be patient. I think it was something about like times and seasons or something. And she was just saying how important it is to recognize the importance of waiting, your waiting season, right? She said for mothers, no mother will get up and say, okay, it's 2 months, I'm ready, get this baby out of me. No, they actually want you to, like, they actually want to go the full 9 or 10 months, right? And that, because that waiting season is necessary for the child that is going to come out at the end. For someone who just starts college, you don't just come out of your first semester of freshman year saying, all right, why don't I have my degree? You know, you need the 4 years. And when she said that, I realized, I was like, wow, that is so important. We pick and choose when we want to wait, when it's okay to wait and when it's not okay to wait, you know. And that's something that has really stuck with me. And I think every time, like, not to say that when things aren't going well, I'm not going to be down or something, but I'm not going to wallow in the whatever it is that's not working out at that point, you know.
And I think even when it comes to waiting, sometimes you think that it's just waiting, but what you do when you're waiting matters as well, because sometimes we may not see the value in those 4 years of undergrad or in those 9 months of being pregnant, but what you do can impact the results that you get. And so if we're able to shift our perspective on the waiting and see it as a time of building, a time of cultivating, a time of getting clear vision, then the outcome can actually maybe be improved if we are going through the waiting with a better attitude.
That is so true. And when you said that, I just realized that for me, it took me twice the amount of time it would take anyone to graduate with their bachelor's degree. It took me almost 8 years, and it was the longest 8 years of my life, honestly. Like, it wasn't it wasn't fun. It was full of struggle. It was full of failure and everything. And what you just said, like, it was so important, it was so necessary for me to um go through this, like that period of time, because that is what has given me the story that now I can share. If I had finished in just 4 years, who knows if I would have had anything to share, or if I would have anything to stand on to encourage and inspire women. So I really like how you put it, that it's very necessary to focus on what you're doing whilst you're waiting. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to take a quick break,
Okay.
and you can pick up
I
your
was like,
phone
we're
if you
gonna have
need to.
a little special
Honestly,
guest
you're
here.
fine. Yeah. It's okay. Um.
Hi,
So
buddy.
hi. Oh my
Say
God,
hi
you're
to
so
everybody.
cute. Hi. I love it. So this is like a
Sure,
fast
let's do
round
it.
of questions. Um, all right. So the first one is, if you were not an engineer, what would you
You know,
be?
I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I was. And
Really?
I was like, if I wasn't an engineer, I think I would want to be a teacher. I'd want to be a teacher. Yeah, and specifically teaching
Wow.
younger kids, like not college level, but like maybe grade
Okay.
school. I realize maybe it's because I have a child
Mm-hmm.
now, but I just love hearing what the next generation thinks. You know, I love hearing their thoughts and ideas and
Mm,
being able to impart knowledge and impart wisdom so that they don't make the mistakes that you make. I think that that's like one
yeah.
of the most precious things you can pass on to another generation. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what I'll be. I still don't know, but that's okay. All right. Would you
Sure.
rather work from home or work in the
Work
office?
from home. Work from home,
Thank
1,000%.
you. Like, there are people who would still want
No.
to work like
If I want
100%
human
from the
interaction,
office
I'll work
now,
from
and
Starbucks.
I don't know who
But
they are.
commuting and the whole nine, nah, I work from
I know it like stresses me out. Like, I wake up and like, okay, I have to shower, I have to put on clothes, I have to
yeah.
drive, I have to smile
I
with
think COVID
people. Like, it's a
showed us
lot.
that you can be just as productive, maybe even more productive at home as at in the office.
Yes. What was your first social media name ever? Like high
Oh my
five,
goodness, my
MySpace,
first
that
ever.
far back.
Um, like my actual username. I'm trying to
Hmm.
remember. Trying to remember. I don't remember what it was for like MySpace and stuff, but I know that my very first one on Instagram, I think it was simply RE. RE is my maiden name. So it was simply RE.
I love hearing those. Yeah, my first MySpace high five name will be buried
You
when
gotta
I
just
die.
say nobody needs to know.
No one needs to know what it is. Um, if you
Hmm.
didn't live in, is it Maryland that you live in? Yeah, if you didn't live in Maryland, where else would you
So
want to
I
live?
used to always say, if it's in the US, I used to always say North Carolina, but I was there, was it last week? And I was like, I'm kind
It
of miss
wasn't
Maryland.
given.
I kind of miss Maryland. So maybe it would have to be a different country, maybe like Ghana, you know? Maybe Ghana.
Yes. Okay, okay. Me too, me too. All right. What is one word you would use to describe 10-year-old Sarah?
10-year-old Sarah. Hmm. I was I was gonna say confused, but maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't. Only because I don't know
No,
if people
that's
understand when
okay.
English is not your first language, some things just don't translate. For example, like
Yeah.
let's say the teacher would say, "Okay, everybody, let's pick up our desks because it's the end of the day." I'm thinking it's physically pick up my desk, not tidy up my desk. Yeah. So some things just didn't translate. I didn't understand English, so a lot of
Yeah.
things like really confused me. There was another kid in Esau. You know, on the paper you have to write your name and then you write your date. This person
Hmm.
for date,
Hmm.
they drew two stick figures sitting at the table like on a date for the date line because again, it just doesn't It doesn't translate directly. So I remember.
Really? Wait, so you were
No,
translating from
just
what,
like thinking
French?
about date, like how,
Oh,
because
like
date has two
actual,
different
okay,
different. It
gotcha.
can be date as in the date, or date as in going on a date. So like not knowing which one is being referenced,
Going
that
on a
happened to
date,
me a
yeah.
lot. Just being confused.
Well,
Yeah.
now you're very
Now
fluent with,
it's not a problem,
English,
but
so you're good.
back then, oh my god, I didn't know what a thumb was. Like there were so many things. Yes.
Really? Wait, so how long did it take you to actually
Um,
be
so when
fluent
I
in
came, I could
English?
speak some English. Like I could speak like household English, like like the how you'd speak in a home. But I would say middle
Mhm.
school is probably when I felt like my English was solid and I understood, most most words. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know what that is like moving to a whole new country and
Especially when
not
at
knowing
home,
the
the way
language.
that parents speak
That's
English, you
tough.
know how there's some words that aren't really English, just like African English words? It's like, oh, that's not a word. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay, my final question is, what is one word you will use to
Hmm.
describe Sarah now?
Wow. I would say Sarah now is content. And what I mean by that is I feel like being in college and getting your first job, it can always feel like you're looking to the next thing. What is my next accolade that I can
Hmm.
celebrate or post on Instagram and get likes for? And it can almost be this weird rat race because you realize that the next milestone, it'll feel good, but it's not what ultimately fulfills you, right? My job is not what's going to ultimately fulfill me. And now I think that I found contentment in that all these different aspects of my life are all working together towards my overall purpose. And now that I'm so focused on and have clarity concerning my purpose, I'm content. Everything in my life is not the way that I ultimately want it to be. I still have goals that I want. I still have things that I want to change. But in where I am today, I am
Hmm.
satisfied. I am content. And that helps to keep me in a good mental space when I show up at work, when I show up for my family, and different things like that.
I actually want to
It's a
answer
really
that
good
question for
question.
myself now. Yeah, I would say, oh my God, I would say I'm okay. Yeah, like okay, and I guess it's kind of similar. Okay, content, same thing. Like okay
Mm,
in like who I am now, because I think um for some time I was trying
yeah.
to please different types of people. I was trying to be the ideal child, ideal friend, ideal sister, ideal partner, whatever it is. And now I'm like I like
Yeah.
who I am now is
And
enough.
I
So
love,
I think actually the word is enough. Yeah. The word is enough. Yeah. And I'm enough in my career, enough in my outside of work business, like everything that I do, I feel like I'm enough because it's very easy to not value yourself when so many things are thrown at you and you don't know how to navigate them or like and I think a lot of this came when I turned 30 because like
yeah,
there's a lot of clarity that comes with it and I was so scared to like actually turn 30 and I was really panicking about that but then eventually when I did I was like wait
yeah,
this is great, and there's a lot that comes with that, like a lot of friendships that you lose, a lot of relationships that evolve, and it's like, okay, I finally have
mm,
who I need around me, who is actually going to push me into my purpose, who is actually going to push me to chase the dreams and the
I
goals
love
that I have
that.
for myself. So yeah, I
I
would
love
say,
that, especially what
yeah,
you
I
mentioned
love
about
that.
turning 30, because I feel
Okay.
like usually for us millennials, approaching 30 was like, oh my gosh, I'm turning 30. But it's crazy because I feel like in our 20s
Yeah.
is when we're in this weird space of like, oh, this person's doing this person's doing that. But then as your brain is like developing and you cross over to 30, it's like I feel like you just become more confident in who you are and your own path, and that gives you so much more clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to turning
Yeah.
30, and I
Yeah. You've done a lot even before that. So
thank
no,
you.
I applaud you. So I want us to actually I want you to share a bit about, is there anything coming up with AYs? Is there anything
Yes,
that you want people to know
yes,
about
yes.
AYs?
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen on our page, we said that we'd be right back because motherhood. But we have two very exciting things coming up this year. One is going to be an hybrid in-person and virtual workshop for women in STEM. And we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So that's going to be really good. It's going to be happening this
Okay.
summer. And then we're also going to be having a STEM camp for kids. So yeah, that'll be coming
Oh
as well. So
wow.
stay tuned for that. I'm super excited about it. Super excited to bring AY's network back to life after. So more
But
information will be on the
yeah.
way with that.
That's that's really good. Now with that, have you had any struggles in trying to start or in trying to
Yes.
run
Yeah,
AY?
and I actually forgot to
Okay.
mention this in when you asked about imposter syndrome because I feel like I felt a lot of imposter syndrome there. Just like, am I even qualified to be talking about empowering women in STEM? Like, I just graduated 2 seconds ago. Who am I to
Yeah.
now be just all
Yeah.
manner of thoughts? And even just learning how to start a business and an organization and how to operate it, how to manage it, feeling overwhelmed, feeling burnt out. I felt all of those things. And that's also part of the reason why I decided to take a break because if I don't have clarity, if I don't have vision, I get stuck. I just don't do. And I'm just frozen.
Yeah.
And that doesn't serve anybody. And so I really had to go back to the drawing board and
Hmm.
get clarity again, get vision, and be like, all right, this time I'm running till the wheels fall off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love that. And this I can relate because I've also been in a space where it's like, okay, you just graduated, you don't have that much like work experience. You haven't worked in like five companies for like
Yeah.
10 years. Like what do you have to say, you know? Is there
Mm-hmm.
value in what comes out of my mouth? And I really had to overcome that. And honestly, sometimes it was
Yeah.
as simple as like talking to a friend about it. Sometimes it was as simple as praying about it. Sometimes it was just me doing research and realizing that okay, all these people out there speaking,
Yes.
I whatever they're saying, I can say this too, and probably even more, you know. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that is very normal, especially when it comes to starting an organization. And I think I'm still in the trenches with that.
Yeah,
And one day I
you
will figure
will.
it out. One
And I love what
day.
you said about friends too, because you really
But
need
yeah,
those friends who can keep you accountable to what you believe you're called to
yeah,
do. Friends who will not let you give up on your dreams and your goals,
yeah,
who will literally say, nope, time to
yeah,
get back up. You had your time to cry and be a little art, time to get back up and get back to it. It's the difference.
yeah. And I know we need to wrap up this
I
conversation, but I
know.
have so many things I
It's
want to
so
ask
good.
you. So, on this friends topic, actually, what do you think? Are there friends that helped you on your STEM journey? Like when you were, I guess, when you were down, were these like friends within the industry or field, or were these just like your everyday friends who were able to pick you up
For
and
me, it
encourage
was
you during
mostly
those
my
times?
everyday friends who weren't in the field, because especially in undergrad, everybody in my
Okay.
classes were complaining. Everybody was down. Everybody was just so it was like it was almost like misery loves company type of thing. Like we're all just like, oh, another class,
Hmm.
physics, this, all that. So I sought out my friends outside of school who knew me, who knew my goals, who knew what I was capable of, who knew what God has put inside of me. And they were really able to help me to see the gold in myself so that I would keep going. So those are the friends that I, even till today, I'm still like, hey, yo, guys, pray for me. There's this, there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's very important to have that
Yeah.
community, even now that you're a mom as well. I'm sure maybe the dynamics of that will change a bit. There'll be
Yeah.
additions and subtractions and stuff, but I think it's very important to have the right community around you because I have friends who call me and be
Where
like,
is it
"Girl,
at?
you said you wanted to do this year. Like, what have you done so far?" You know, yeah. And sometimes I will just not pick your call. But then at the end of the day, I have to answer the question, and
Yeah.
vice versa. Like, I also hold my friends accountable, and because at the end of the day, we all want to win. I want to win with them. I
Hmm.
don't want to be the only one at the top, and having
Yeah.
to support everyone, having to pull everyone up with me. I want us all to be there
And also,
helping
I know
other
that there may
people.
be some people
So
who feel like
yeah.
they don't have those friends, they don't have that friend group. One thing I recently did, because I was looking for other engineers who are also women, I found a Facebook group. And the Facebook group was literally for women engineers who have a side business or side organization who also have kids. And I just joined. And I didn't know anybody in that group,
Mm.
but I said, you know what? I'm desiring friends in this area. So let me push past my own fears and just put myself out there. And that group has been a big blessing. So if you're looking for friends,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go after what you need. It's not always going to come to you. Sometimes it does, but sometimes you actually have to go after what you need. So look for those Facebook groups, look for that person on Instagram, and don't hesitate to reach out to get the support that you need.
Yeah, and with what you just said about reaching out for what you need, I do that a lot. Like, I'm always in people's DMs. I'm always sending
Good.
people emails, like, because I've realized the power I have in reaching out,
Yeah.
because the worst they can do
It's
is say no, and that's okay. I move on to the next DM. Um, but for me, I realized that it would be more painful if I never reached out, and I have no idea what this person would even say, as opposed to actually
right.
reaching out and them saying no. And I've gotten so many opportunities from just sending people
Yeah.
DMs, obviously respectfully as well, and being like, be straight to the point. Like, don't just say hi and then just leave it. Like, say hello and put what you need, because if they don't know you, they're probably not
Exactly.
gonna just respond to your hi. So just be strategic about that. But I would
Yeah.
definitely encourage you to always reach out,
Yeah.
because people are actually willing to help. I don't know whether I grew up with this mentality
Yeah.
that people don't really want to help you, but I realized that everyone, like, people, like, regardless
Not
whether
very.
their page is verified, whether they're not verified, whether they're on Forbes, whatever they are, like, people really want to help. So put yourself out there. Yeah. Um, so the final question I have is, can you share a bit, and I know we've touched on this a little, can you share a bit about the importance of knowing who you are
Mm,
outside of the title that you
this is
carry?
such a great question. It's so good, and I think that
Yeah.
it's so important to know yourself apart from your titles, because what we don't want to do is to fall into the trap of ascribing our worth to ourselves based on what we do. Because what if for a season you are not working? During COVID, so many people lost their jobs, and the jobs that they took so much pride in were no longer theirs. That doesn't make you any less of who you are because you don't have
Yeah.
that job. One thing that I know about myself is whether or not I'm working for a company, whether or not I'm holding a title, I'm an incredible engineer. I can take 20 years off work. I am still an incredible engineer. But more than that, I know that at my core, I am made in the image of God. I am born to be great. I am born to impact this world, and it can look like different things. If we get so stuck on these titles that we have, whether it's mother, whether it's wife, whether it's engineer, whatever it is, we can almost put ourselves in this box where we're not even open to seeing what else God can do with us. Because I mean, I didn't think that I would be, because there are also other things that I do outside of what I've mentioned, and I didn't think that those things would be possible if I just limited myself to those labels or to those things. And sometimes we carry titles that have been imposed on us. They're not even true to who we are. Some people get
Yeah.
told from a very young age, you got to pick either doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's it. And then they get to college and have an identity crisis because they hate
Mm-hmm.
their classes. They hate what they're studying. And if you are just stuck on that title that was placed on you, you can handicap your purpose and handicap what you've been called to do because of that title that you're hiding under. So it's important that we first know who we are just fundamentally as a child of God, and know that these titles that we carry are just other ways that we are able to express our gifts and express the talents that we have. But our worth does not come from that, because if I lose my job tomorrow, my worth does not decrease. I'm still Sarah and I'm still incredible. And same goes for
Mm-hmm.
you. If you decide to pivot tomorrow and do something else, you're not any less of an incredible person just because you're not an engineer. So that's why I think it's so important to know that outside of your title, figure out the things fundamentally about you that make you you and make you great. That way you can be added to any organization or any place and you can bring value because you're not just limited to a title that you carry. You can take me to the White House tomorrow and I will have something to say that will show them that I can be in any room and provide.
No, that's fine. No, listen, can you just keep talking?
We got to do a part two or something.
Because no, there's so much wisdom. We do. There's so much wisdom in what you're saying. And I even fall prey to that because I think for so long, I was stuck in my title of I struggled in school. And so it transitioned into I'm not enough as an engineer. I'm not enough as this, as that. And so I think a lot of us get stuck or hold on to certain titles that like we're not able to realize that okay, actually in every season we carry different titles. Right now the title that you're carrying is a mom, is a wife, is an engineer, and the hierarchy would change as time goes on. But I think it's so important to not keep yourself in a box because for you, for example, if you get stuck in the title of okay, I'm someone's mom right now, you may lose yourself and forget and even struggle to transition back into being an engineer. So I think if you guys have any questions, please drop it before we drop off. I forgot to say that. But the college funding queen said school is not even the best
Yeah.
indicator of our capacity. That is so true. Most people graduate and transition into a totally different field, right? Our degrees are literally like thrown away and most people don't even use it. So it's so true. But yeah, I listen, you have preached, you have taught, you've done everything, and I really, really appreciate
Me
you.
too.
I appreciate this conversation. It's been amazing, and I'm so honored to have you as my first guest for this
So
Instagram Live series.
I would
And
love
hopefully
to come
you'll be
back.
able to come back another time. Yeah. So before you leave, can you just leave us with some parting words, some information, some tips for people struggling with whether it's their identity, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's
Mm.
transitioning into another phase of their life?
Yes,
Just
there are three
share
things that
something.
I always share, and someone may have heard me share it before, but I'll just share it again because it's really helped me, and I think it can help anybody else who's listening. The first thing is that it is okay if you do not have a point of reference for where you want to go or who you want to become. What I mean by that is, like I said, no one in my family was an engineer. I didn't know any engineers, but that was not a reason to not pursue. So if you are somebody who wants to do something different, you want to take a path that you've not seen anybody take. Some people literally create their own graduate programs. Don't be discouraged because the path hasn't been cleared yet. You can be the trailblazer who's going to go and clear that path so that others can now follow behind you. The other thing that I'll say is that don't let anybody, not even yourself, not even your own thoughts, don't let anyone or anything convince you that you cannot do or that you cannot attain the thing that you want to do. Whatever it is you set your mind to, it is possible. And the last thing that I will say is do not curse your storms. All of us are going to face various trials. For someone, it may be that graduating takes longer. For someone else, it may be that getting a job takes longer. For someone else, it may be that you have to stop working for a season or whatever the case may be. Do not curse that storm because although in the moment it feels so bad and it's so hard to get through, what it produces in you cannot be fabricated. So the resilience that you have, Lillian, the determination that you have to finish what you start, that's not something that you could have just bought at the store, right? No one could have taught that to you. What you went through made you a resilient woman, a resilient engineer. And so for that reason alone, I'm grateful that it took you longer to finish because you wouldn't be who you are had that not happened. For me, I'm grateful that I sacrificed all those things that I did, because now I'm so much more confident. I'm so much more content. I'm so much more determined. And I don't think that I would have these qualities had I not gone through some rough patches. So if you are someone who's currently in the storm, do not curse that storm. The storm is going to pass. That's just how seasons work. But know that it's putting something and building something inside of you that you otherwise wouldn't have, and it's going to serve you well in your career journey.
Whew, girl. I can't. So Nadia put a question in the chat. She said, have you both found that as a woman minority, we can have everything? She's found that we can, but not at the same time, and be okay with it. So I can speak on this briefly. I was in counseling the other day, and the lady was sharing with us how, a lot of people say work-life balance, but for her, she believes that it's work-life hierarchy, and that in every season of your life, you just need to something is going to be number one, maybe in this season of your life, and then the next season is going to shift to number two, and something else will move to the top. So it's not necessarily about trying to balance everything on the same level, but it's a matter of knowing where to place what in your life in every season. So
no, I 100%
I don't know if you have
agree.
something else.
One of my spiritual mentors, she said, let's throw away this idea of balance and think of it as work-life budget. You are allotting different time and different amounts of energy to these things based on, like you said, the hierarchy. So things that are higher priority get more of our time and attention. Things that aren't, we can budget our time and our energy differently. I think someone else mentioned having boundaries. So, we do have the capacity to do a lot of things. The question is just, how much of my time is this thing worth? How much of my energy is it worth? And in different seasons, that can be adjusted based on what's going on in life.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah.
Yes,
I have another meeting to jump to. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your words of wisdom. I appreciate everything you're doing. And I pray that God will give you the strength to be able to keep pushing, to be able to keep shining, and to be an amazing mother in this season of your life, and continue to inspire every woman that is connected to you. So thank you, everyone. And
we will be back.
We will probably come back for another session.
Bye.
All right. Bye.